Stop me if this sounds familiar. You work, you get paid. The money arrives, and within days, sometimes hours, it is already spoken for. Rent, bills, food, debt, the things that were always waiting for it to arrive. And somewhere between the earning and the spending, the gap you were supposed to be closing quietly stays exactly the same size. You tell yourself next month will be different. Next month is the same. You tell yourself the raise will change things. The raise disappears into the same gaps. And slowly, without anyone announcing it, without a single dramatic moment you can point to, years pass, and the distance between where you are and where you thought you would be by now is not smaller, it is wider. This is not a story about lazy people. This is not a story about bad luck. This is a story about a river, and almost everything you have ever been told about crossing it has been focused on the wrong thing entirely. Meet Tariq. Tariq did everything right, studied hard, got a degree, found a stable job at 23, and spent the next 8 years working harder than almost everyone around him. Promotions came, salary went up. By every external measure, Tariq was succeeding. At 31, Tariq had almost nothing saved, not because he was reckless, not because he wasted money on things he could not afford. He paid his bills on time. He avoided debt where he could. He even tried investing once, put some money into a stock a colleague recommended, watched it fall 40% in 3 months, and quietly decided investing was not for people like him. Tariq was not lazy. Tariq was exhausted and confused and quietly ashamed of a gap he could not name, could not measure, and could not close, no matter how many hours he put in. What nobody ever told Tariq, what almost nobody tells anyone, is that he had been swimming his entire life, just in the wrong direction. Here is the number that explains everything. Research tracking household financial outcomes across more than 40 countries consistently shows that the median working adult saves less than 5% of their income across their entire career, not in a recession year, not during a crisis, on average, across decades of working life. And in most of Asia, across Africa, across Latin America, and throughout Southern Europe, household savings rates have been declining for 30 consecutive years, even as incomes rose, even as economies grew, even as more people entered formal employment than at any point in recorded history. People are earning more, keeping less, and the distance between the average working person and meaningful financial security is not shrinking. In most of the world, it is quietly growing, and the explanation almost everyone reaches for is the same one: not enough money coming in. It is the wrong answer, and as long as Tariq believes it, he will keep swimming harder and arriving in exactly the same place. I want you to imagine something. There is $10 million sitting on a small island in the middle of a river. Nobody owns it. Nobody is guarding it. It is simply there, visible, real, waiting. The river is not particularly wide. On a clear day, you can see every detail of the island. You can almost feel the distance between you and it shrinking when the wind picks up. But you cannot reach it because you do not know how to swim. Now, here is the question almost nobody asks in this scenario. Not, how do I learn to swim? Not, how wide is the river exactly? Not even, is the money definitely still there? The question nobody asks is this: why is your river so wide? Because the river between you and wealth is not the same width for everyone. It was not randomly assigned by the universe. It was not determined by how hard you work or how good your intentions are. Your river was measured out long before you ever reached the water. Researchers at the London School of Economics spent 2 decades tracking financial outcomes across 3 generations of families in 14 different countries. Their conclusion was one of the most uncomfortable findings in modern economic research. The single greatest predictor of adult financial outcomes was not education level, not intelligence, not work ethic, not even income. It was the financial literacy of the household you grew up in. Children raised in homes where money was discussed openly, where budgeting was visible, where investing was normalized, where debt was understood rather than feared, entered adulthood with a fundamentally different relationship to wealth. not because they had more money to start with, because they had a different map. They knew where the river was narrowest, and the children raised in households where money was a source of stress, silence, or shame, where it arrived and disappeared without explanation. Those children stepped into the same world, faced the same job market, saw the same opportunities, and stood in front of a river that was measurably, demonstrably, statistically wider. Tariq grew up in a home where money was never discussed, not out of neglect, out of discomfort. His parents worked hard, paid bills, and survived. But wealth, the concept of building something that outlasted a monthly salary, was never part of the conversation. So Tariq entered adulthood with a strong work ethic and no map. He swam harder than almost everyone around him, straight across the widest part of the river. Now let us talk about the current, because even if you find the narrowest part, and even if you know how to swim, there is a force working against you that almost nobody in financial media honestly addresses. Lifestyle inflation. Studies across income levels and geographies show that the average person expands their spending within 6 months of any salary increase, almost entirely absorbing the raise before it can become anything meaningful. The promotion arrives. Within months, there is a better apartment, a newer phone, subscriptions that did not exist before, dinners that feel earned because they are earned. And then the next raise comes, and the same thing happens again. This is not weakness. This is neuroscience. The human brain is wired to normalize. Whatever your current standard of living becomes, within months, your brain begins to register it, not as the achievement, but as the minimum, the floor, and anything below it triggers the same stress response as genuine deprivation. This is why people who double their salary often find themselves no closer to financial security 5 years later. This is why Tariq got 3 promotions in 8 years and had almost nothing to show for it. The current did not catch him by surprise. It was always there, moving in one direction, quiet, consistent, and completely indifferent to how hard he was swimming. And then there are the sharks. Easy credit, buy now, pay later, lifestyle debt marketed as financial flexibility, investment schemes promising returns that do not exist, financial products designed precisely, deliberately, psychologically, to feel like solutions at the exact moment you feel most like you are drowning. The global consumer debt market is worth over $17 trillion. It did not reach that number because lenders were generous. It reached that number because the products were engineered to be invisible until you are already inside them. The sharks in this river do not look like sharks. They look like boats. And someone who was never taught to read the water cannot tell the difference until the teeth are already visible. Here is where the story changes direction. Because the people who actually close the gap, who find the other side, share almost nothing in terms of background, starting income, or country of origin. But they share one thing without exception. At some point, they stopped swimming harder and started asking a completely different question. Not, how do I work more hours? Not, how do I find a better job? But, where is the river narrowest? Because the river always has a narrowest point, and finding it is not about luck or timing or who you know. It is about information. One skill the market pays disproportionately well for. One asset class understood deeply enough to act on without panic. One income stream not directly tied to the hours you are physically present and working. One financial habit, automatic, invisible, consistent, that builds while you are not thinking about it. The research on intergenerational wealth is clear and consistent across every country it has been studied in. The primary variable separating those who build lasting wealth from those who do not is not effort, it is leverage, the ability to make money move while you are not the one physically moving it. Businesses, assets, investments, systems that generate returns, independent of your daily presence. At first, your skills carry you across the river. Later, what you have built carries you. That is the difference between income and wealth. And it is a distinction that never existed in Tariq's vocabulary, which is precisely why it never existed in his bank account. And here is the final thing, the part the motivational content never reaches. The island was never really about the money. The person who learns to read the current, who finds the narrowest point, who builds something that moves without them, that person has become someone they were not when they started. And that is the real asset, the one nobody can repossess. A 20-year study tracking both lottery winners and self-made wealthy individuals who had lost significant money found something that should no longer surprise you. Lottery winners who lost their fortunes rarely rebuilt them. Self-made individuals who lost everything almost always did. Same shore, completely different relationship to the river. Because once you know how to cross, no river frightens you the same way again. Lose the money, you cross again. Market crashes, you cross again. Business fails, you cross again. Faster this time, because you already know where the current is weakest. Tariq is still working, still earning more than he did 8 years ago, still wondering, on certain nights, in certain quiet moments, why the island looks the same distance away. What eventually changed for him was not a raise, it was not a stroke of luck. It was the moment someone finally showed him where he was standing on the shore, and explained, clearly and without condescension, why the river looked so impossibly wide from that exact spot. It was just information, arriving a decade late, but not too late for everything that came after. The river has never cared who you are. It does not reward effort. It does not punish failure. It has never once noticed how early you wake up. It only responds to one thing, whether you understand it before you step in. And understanding, unlike the width of the river, unlike the strength of the current, unlike every disadvantage you were handed before you ever had a choice, is something you can actually change.